We're back. Interjections 103. I hope everyone enjoyed a therapeutic week off from having to think about Inter. We're going to spend today doing a positional deep dive of the squad, where things stand and where we're hoping things go. I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm mostly glad I never have to watch Matteo Retegui play football ever again. Jay, Mikko, and Irfan here with me. Mikko, I heard you're basically retired at this point. How's retirement treating you?
Yeah, retirement of 1 month. It's going great. The temperatures are going up, so I'm enjoying the summer here. Can't complain.
Irfan, how did you enjoy what is probably your 6th week in a row without podcasting?
It was fine. I missed it. I missed you guys, but you guys did a great job. So but I'm excited to be back. Not very excited to be talking about Inter and the state of our team right now, but I am excited to be back with you guys. So looking forward to it.
Irfan's only unexcited for one specific reason. We'll get into it. Jay, I'm hearing rumors Xhaka to Milan might not happen. How are you handling the news?
I think the only reason Xhaka to Milan is not here we go is because they are instead focusing their efforts on a even greater talent in Jashari from Club Bruges. So, joke's on you, mate.
All right. Well, let's dive right in and start today by talking about our goalkeeping situation. So we have 3 goalkeepers under contract heading into next season. We've got Sommer, Martinez, and Di Gennaro. We just gave Di Gennaro a 1-year contract extension, so he'll be back for another year as our 3rd keeper. So the discussion to be had here is about Sommer. His contract expires in 2026. We have at least 1 more year of him, but there are a lot of reports coming out of Turkey that Galatasaray are interested in him and willing to give him a juicy pay raise. Certainly, we will not let Sommer leave for free. We need to receive $2 million for him to avoid any sort of capital loss. So the question I have for you all is whether you want to keep Sommer for 1 more season. Obviously, we conceded more goals last year than our Scudetto winning campaign, and I would attribute the majority of those to our poor defending rather than Sommer. But despite some fantastic games from Sommer, like the Barcelona home fixture, it's hard to deny that Sommer took a step back last season. I can pick goals against Milan that I thought were largely on him. So it's an interesting discussion. There's this advanced stat that calculates how many goals a keeper concedes over like the expected amount of goals they would be expected to concede. And last year, Sommer was still a net positive. He conceded about 1 fewer goal than expected. The problem is during the Scudetto winning season, he actually saved 7 more goals than he was expected to. So it's a tough call when you have a goalie who's 36, 37 years old, who's not very physically he's not a big keeper, so if his reflexes go, he won't age well. So when Sommer broke his thumb last year, Martinez took over. Martinez seemed fine, and I'd be willing to go into next season with Martinez as our starter if we got a compelling offer for Sommer. So Irfan, what say you? Are you willing to move on from Sommer if an offer from Galatasaray calls?
Yeah, I mean, I love Jan Sommer, and you're right that in the Scudetto season, he was a lot better, a lot sharper. He looked a little bit more stunted last year, even though, being in the stadium during that Barcelona match, I have to say I'm like pretty much partial towards him forever because of the saves that he made during that time. Obviously, we look back at it differently now after what happened in the final, but still, he's been a great signing for us, all things considered. The only thing I worry about, but with all that said, I'm fine if we want to sell him, mainly because of his age and mainly because I think Martinez is ready to take the next step. He played pretty well whenever he played. So with additional reps and more consistency, I feel like he can play that role pretty well. What worries me about potentially getting rid of Sommer, though, is what ends up happening if Martinez gets injured. Like, are we linked with any other keeper? Like, who would be our current third third choice and potentially second choice keeper, because what I don't want is like another Radu type situation where, we're playing Martinez and then something happens or he gets injured or suspended, and then whoever our backup goalkeeper is just total absolute trash. So I'm not sure I really know who the third keeper would be or if we're linked with anyone. But assuming we can find a decent replacement as a backup, I think I'd be okay giving Martinez the reins, even though I really, really do love Summer. What about you guys?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I'm not sure about Martinez. Like I agree that he played well when he played, but I don't know. Like, is there like a trust in him in the squad that he would be able to pull it off? But then on the other hand, we anyway need to kind of find a solution for the goalkeeper situation anyway at some point, and we don't have money to spend like 30 to 50 million to a goalkeeper at any point. I'm pretty sure about that. So I think we need to start trusting these kind of how do you say, these cheaper guys anyway. So one idea which I've been thinking is if we end up losing Summer already in this summer, we could get Filip Stankovic back, because we sold him to Venezia, but we had like 50% resale, so he's like a half price. So wouldn't be that expensive, and he could be like a maybe the second keeper. Maybe he could play here and there, and we could see like could he even at some point be our first keeper. Uh, but Martinez, what I like about Martinez is that he's totally different animal when it comes to the crosses and aerial balls. Sommer obviously he's a little shorter, so he's not that eager to go to those balls, but Martinez is like total opposite. He's like very very eager to go to connect all the aerial balls in his area, and that's something we haven't seen quite a while with Handanovic. He was pretty reserved as well in his last years. Well, okay, we had Onana for one season, and he was pretty eager with the aerial balls, but the issue with him was that he wasn't very good with them. uh, so so apart from his ball playing skills, it was a bit of a hit and miss with those kind of plays. But yeah, uh, I would be like okay seeing Sommer leave, but it would be a bit of a risk in my mind.
The one thing to keep in mind, and I'm not buying these rumors, but there's been a steady grumbling that we want Donnarumma. Donnarumma's a free agent next summer. He'd be available on a free transfer. Of course, he just has absurd wages, and why would he leave PSG? So there's sort of this backdrop of, do we just need to tie ourselves over to get to signing Donnarumma? And I just don't think it's possible, especially with the way Oaktree runs this club. But those rumors won't go away, and they won't go away until Donnarumma ultimately extends his PSG contract. So something to keep in mind, that maybe that's the argument for holding on to Summer and just trying to tie yourselves over. But I just don't view that as realistic. Let's pivot to talking about the defenders. It was a disappointing season from our defenders. So you had Pavar struggle mightily with injuries. Hopefully he's enjoying his paddle playing career. And Pavar only started 18 league games. Basek had some great moments, but we all know about the mistakes he committed. I'm sure you're all thinking about that Lazio penalty right now. In the center of the defense, you have a Cherubin and DeVry, who basically split the number of matches started in half across the league. And it's hard to think about both a Cherubin and DeVry without remembering how slow they looked in the most important game of the season. And then, of course, on the left, you have Bastoni, who Inzaghi kept subbing off and we kept conceding goals. So it's clear we need another defender. We're old, we're slow, and pretty much everyone besides Bastoni and Basek struggled to stay fit last year. The name we're being linked to is Giovannileoni from Parma. The valuations are wild. There was a report yesterday. Parma think he's going to be worth up to 60 million. The more sensible ones are they want 40 million for an 18-year-old with 15 career Serie A starts. But there's a lot to like when you watch this kid play. He looks massive. He's physical. There's a lot of great clips of him just muscling attackers off the ball. And I'm not talking like 5'8" wingers, but Lukaku. I'm trying to think other more physical strikers. And he's not a modern center back in terms of pace. And I know we're all crying out for more pace in our back line. We have about as slow of a defense as money can buy. But he is. People are complaining about Leone's pace, but I think it's overblown, and he's actually fast enough to recover and get to balls that bleed through the midfield. So this is obviously someone Kivu knows from his time at Parma, and if this is who Kivu wants, I trust him enough to go and get Leone. The question is, are you willing to spend 40 million on him, Jay? Are you convinced by this guy?
No, almost certainly not. As you mentioned, the valuations are ridiculous, and I'm surprised that the valuations are so high, considering exactly as you said, he's not considered, or he's widely considered to be more of a throwback player, maybe in the realm of like a Cherby, as opposed to even a De Vrij, who is quite progressive a player for the generation he comes from. So yeah, the valuations are just stupid at this stage. I wonder if it's just a case of Parma trying to ward off any interest and aim for something a little bit higher than 30, 40 for next season, because I don't think anyone in their right mind is paying 60, 70 for this kid right now with, as you said, like 15 games or something under his belt. Absolutely ridiculous.
Apparently Parma doesn't need to sell him, but I find it funny when they talk about him being worth 60 or 70 million in the future. Because, like, dude, what Serie A club is paying that much money for any player, let alone an old school center back? So you're basically banking on like one of the richest clubs in the world coming and poaching this kid, which just doesn't seem likely when you consider what kind of style of player he is. The other open question at center back is whether a Cherby stays. We have an option to terminate his contract for 500,000. There are rumors Inzaghi wants to bring him to Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, you also, regardless, you have a Cherby and De Vrij. Both their contracts expire next summer. So at some point, there's going to be a need in the center of the defense. But Irfan, if forced to choose between the two, let's say we sign Leone and then you're picking between De Vrij and a Cherby, who do you want going into next season?
Ugh, that's a tough one. I kind of feel like Acherby's time is up. I just don't know how much more he has left in the tank. And given the way, just in general, football seems to be moving, I'm a little concerned about him. Not that De Vrij is much faster or anything like that, but I really do think De Vrij probably has a little bit more time left to be more effective than Acherby, and he's proven to be a little bit more durable as well. Acherby missed a lot of time last year because of injuries, but there's no doubt that when Acherby's on the pitch, he's pretty. He's kind of like a leader on the pitch. It seems like he's directing traffic. He's aggressive, and the players clearly believe in him. So it'd be a big loss in that regard in terms of like more of like the intangibles. But I think De Vrij, when he has played last year, played better than he probably played the last few years. So I don't really have faith in either of them, to be honest. But just given the age and profile, I think I'd probably prefer De Vrij. On Leone, I'm pretty excited about him if we can get him. The only thing that I'm worried about, and I think this speaks to some of the uncertainty that all of us have about Kivu, is we don't really know. Like, if this was Inzaghi's team, I would be much less excited about signing Leone because he'd basically be sitting on the bench and not playing as much unless, like, De Vrij and Acherby or whoever was remaining between them was unavailable, right? Like, I feel like Inzaghi has this like very sort of conservative track record of playing the experienced hand. I think we just don't really know how it would go with Kivu. Like, if we do sign Leoni, would he really trust Leoni to be our starting center back over either DeVry or Cherby or both? Or would it be some sort of rotation? I don't know. But if we do sign him, and for the amount of money that's being thrown around, I would expect him to start every day. I mean, I do think, like, kind of scaling out a little bit on a macro level, we definitely need a long-term replacement for the central center back position. And what worries me is that if it's not going to be Leoni because, Parma are just absolutely stupid in what they think he's worth, then who else is it going to be? I haven't seen a lot of other compelling names linked with us. I read some article about how if we don't get Leoni, we're going to look hand, but I don't know what that means. And given Oak Tree's reluctance to really spend a lot of money on, like that Hermoso type kind of player, I just don't know what else we would be looking at. But we need a long-term solution for center back, and it needs to be somebody who can kind of carry the line, because, like you said, Bissek has made a bunch of mistakes. Bastoni is great, but he's even better when he has more freedom to move up. So we really need somebody in the center who can really kind of stamp their authority on the match.
That's an interesting point, and I the only thing that Kivu has going for him that like captivates us and makes us interested in him is this willingness to play the youth, and we saw some of that at the Club World Cup, somewhat out of necessity, but we haven't properly integrated a youthful player into the squad since what, I don't know. I guess you could say Bisek last year out of necessity, maybe Conte with Bastoni. So I am interested in seeing if we can get any of these guys playing time. But honestly, though, Leone is the only transfer target we're linked to solidly right now, period. Regardless of position, there's no player with like a steady simmer of interrelated news to them other than Leone. So as we sit here and we talk about hypothetical transfers, this is kind of it. Like this is the big fish that's left. There's no one else we're really linked to that we have a good chance of signing.
There has been some noise around De Winter. Oh, sorry, Mikko. Just quickly, yeah, we were linked to Connie De Winter from Genoa in the past, and it looks like that name has resurfaced again as a candidate for our defense. But I also saw that name linked in relation to Bissek and rumors regarding Bissek's departure. Now, yes, as you mentioned, there's some issues with Bissek, his consistency and his tendency to make some high-profile errors, but the idea of selling Bissek to me is just fucking ridiculous. The whole point of these young defenders is that, or young players in general, is that you need to give them time to develop in spite of or and dealing with their growing pains and letting them, having trust in them despite some inconsistencies that inevitably come with youth and inexperience. And I feel like we've done that with Bissek. So only to turn around and sell him now just seems nonsensical to me. So Leone in or De Winter in, whatever. It's a concern for the money, and it's a concern that there isn't more like prime age centre backs, 25, 27 to 30, being linked with us currently. But regardless, Bissek is not someone who should be considered as part of those deals as a make weight, nor should he be considered for sale in general.
Yeah, it's the price discussion with Leon is interesting because, as you guys said, 40 million. That's a lot of money for a 18-year-old, and that if we pull that off, that kind of that brings a lot of pressure on the kid if he or when he starts to play for us. Like that's like a insane pressure for such a young guy. And like you guys said, when you bring in 40 million player, that means that you need to play. You just can't like sit him. You need to play a player who's that expensive. And I don't know, can is Leoni that type of player who can like do it right, like immediately step into this kind of role in a team like Inter, because the pressure is it's something totally different he has ever experienced. But then again, when we think about the price, if the price was 30 million, and I don't know, I think I've already see like reports that we would have offered the 30 million already, and Parma has refused it. They want 40. Then I think that what difference does it make? Is it 30 or 40? If he like doesn't live up to the expectation, because I think it's a flop no matter if it's 30 or 40. But if he's good, it doesn't matter if it's 30 or 40. And is there like a difference between those numbers where he would be good with 30 but not with 40? I don't see there's a difference in that. It's only about kind of accounting. Can we pull off the 40 million instead of 30 million transfer? And then about the other defenders being linked or lack of those links. I remember during the season we had links to Sam, how do you call it, Pukema from Bologna, and Lukumi also from Bologna, and now both links are like totally gone. So it's very interesting that we are now focused on just Leoni, who's like 18 years old. I believe Lukumi and Pukema are like 26 and 25 or something. And Pukema is going to Napoli now. He's gonna cost like 30 million plus. I don't know, is that like the price we didn't want to pay, or we didn't consider him good enough for us, or what's it's really interesting, like what is this dynamic of all these kind of these different numbers and these different players. I think that the Winter is interesting case. I would want to see him added, not like not getting Pisek sold at the same time. I agree that it doesn't make any sense to like swap them unless there's like a, I don't know, like a considerable difference between the prices, and I haven't seen any those kind of rumors. Only rumors I've seen about Pisek is that we would be selling him for 35 million, which doesn't make much sense to me.
Mikko, would you be willing, hypothetically, would you be willing to sell Pavar? I just given the extensive injuries he's had, he is our only prime age defender. I don't know. What do you think about his Inter future?
If it was possible, if we would be able to get at least the same money which we spent on him, then we would replace him with the Winter. I don't know. Maybe it would probably get the costs down a bit with the wages, but I don't know. There's a lot of experience in Pavard, and he's a fast guy. I don't know. I wouldn't be like totally comfortable with that if we added also Leoni. Like if there's like a experience coming out of our defense, like a lot, that I think that would be a bit of a risk. But I guess in a vacuum, I would be okay if the replacement was like a proper player.
I guess I'm also obligated to just mention the 7 million waste of space named Palacios. Thank you, Oak Tree, for that one. There's no chance this guy's staying at the club. We're committed to loaning him out. There are actually a few reports that we are interested in selling him and just cutting our losses, but most likely scenario is he gets loaned out, and there's links to clubs all over Europe, so he will not be at Inter next year. Okay, I'm going to gloss over left wing back. There's nothing really to say there. We're set for another season of DeMarco, Augusto, and Zalewski helping out. The more interesting discussion is at right wing back, where we signed Luis Enrique for 20 plus million to serve as the reserve for Dumfries, or at least so we thought. But now there's all these reports that Dumfries has a release clause in his contract, which was added during negotiations last time he extended his contract. As you may recall, he extended his contract for lower wages than he was requesting. Everyone was a little surprised, and lo and behold, this is the reason why. So shortly after the Club World Cup, he hired super agent Jorge Mendes, and the thought is he's trying to convince Manchester City or Barcelona, one of these clubs, to activate his release clause, which is 20 or 25 million, depending on which report you read. Barcelona are too broke to do anything, but you still have to think there's a chance that club will come knocking and activate Dumfries' release clause. He's 29 years old. He's still in the prime of his career. He was one of our best players last season. So we lost the Scudetto last year during a 4-game stretch when Darmian had to fill in for Dumfries, our right wing back. Now you have Darmian seemingly falling out of the pecking order, which kind of be a Swiss Army knife who we use when we're desperate, when we need him. So Irfan, thoughts on the Dumfries situation, concern level about someone activating his clause and him leaving?
I don't want to sell him at all. I think it'd be a really bad move to sell him. Even if Enrique is as good as we expect him to be, which I actually don't know how good we expect him to be, but even if he kind of fulfills his price tag, I think selling Dumfries is like absolute folly. Like last season, I don't know how you guys felt. Like Dumfries was like one of the only players I felt who consistently put in not just like good results, but also like maximum effort consistently. There's a couple other players obviously who did that too, but he to me is like part of like the backbone of what this club needs, like kind of the grinta, the force like behind a lot of what we were doing. And he to me, he's a very important player on the pitch for us at any given time. So I think selling him is absolutely a mistake. I'm actually really upset that feature was included in his contract, that he has this, that other teams can exercise this buyout. I know the market and age justifications make a lot of sense, and given that the position we were in when we were negotiating, we needed to have him signed or he could have walked for free. I get all of the dynamics of all that, but it's just kind of a shitty situation that someone could pay that much money and just have him gone. Because in my opinion, outside of people who never watch Serie A, he's worth way more than that. So I am worried that someone might trigger it. The only thing going for us is that there's a criminal undervaluation of all Serie A players. So maybe no one will be able to justify spending it. I mean, if Dumfries had performed the same way he performed last year, he was of the same age and had the same features, but he was on an EPL team, he'd be worth like 50 mil easily, even at 29. So the whole situation irks me. I'm hoping no one steps in and pays that amount. And I really want him to stay, because I get really worried about relying just on Luis Enrique. And I don't have any faith that we would be getting another sort of useful player to play in that position. And like you said, I don't want to see Darmian in any sort of consistent, match minutes, because he can come in here and there as a utility player to plug in gaps on injuries and things like that. But we really can't rely on him even as a backup, in my opinion. He's just not effective enough. So yeah, I hope he stays. And I'm actually more optimistic and excited about Luis Enrique than I gather a lot of people are about him, a lot of Inter fans. I think he'll be okay. I'm excited about what this position can be for us next year, because they're both very different players in some way. And I think Luis Enrique can bring sort of an element on the pitch that we've needed and lacked previously. And I think some of the comparisons of him being like another, kind of useless player. I forget who we were linking him. Some former, him being another Dalbert and stuff like that is, I think, very harsh. So let's see.
I was excited about the Luis Enrique signing until I saw him play in the Club World Cup, where he looked absolutely awful. But I'll try not to overreact to 2 or 3 bad games in a competition no one cared about. But yeah, it just that's the problem, right? If you sell Dumfries, we're not bringing in a replacement nearly as good, and your default starter at that point, Luis Enrique, is someone who has had a less than stellar start to his Inter career.
With Dumfries, I think there's one silver lining with his situation, is that I think there aren't that many clubs who can actually like match or beat our kind of offer or the salary what he's getting right now. So there's only like a handful of them. But of course, you need just one who wants him, and that then they can sign him because the release clause is pretty low. But let's hope that isn't gonna happen, because our right side, I also feel that I feel that it's, if Dumfries stays, it's pretty good. I'm not that negative on Henrique as some of the people, but I think we as or the team and the coach needs to kind of based on the Club World Cup, they need to kind of learn how to use him properly. We weren't able to put them on like running properly in many cases, and he was like very hesitant to kind of just triple past his marker when he was standing, and so on. And I would assume that's the case in Serie A most of the games as well. So we need to find a way to kind of utilize his speed in a like a better manner than we did in Club World Cup. But all in all, yeah, I think the right side is fine as is, and hopefully it remains so. As for the left side, I wanna go back quickly on the left side. That you mentioned DiMarco, Augusto, and Zalewski. I'm not sure. Like, are we going to consider Augusto as the kind of the rotation player for Bastoni at the same time? He played there quite a bit last season, and I'm just wondering, because we don't have, okay, we have Palacios, but he seems to be indeed going out on loan or permanently. So I'm just wondering, what are you guys' thoughts? Is Augusto going to play uh, on the defense rather than the wingback position more?
Yeah, we'll have to see how much Kivu values rotation, how often he takes Bastoni off the pitch. But I think you're right. I could see a lot of scenarios where the substitutions during a match are Augusto for Bastoni, Zalewski for DeMarco, and that's your revamped left side. But I don't know. We'll have to see how it all shakes out. But I think your Augusto will get a healthy amount of games at both positions.
Yeah, it's at least better than last season, when we went to the season with just Palacios there, and he never played basically. And
What a
now
great
we,
signing.
yeah, now we at least have Zalewski there to kind of have the numbers correct on the left side. But yeah, let's see.
Speaking of left wing backs, let's talk about Tajon Buchanan, who is still here. This guy has no future at Inter. We're trying to sell him. It's just a matter of to whom. Apparently, Sassuolo want him. There were reports that we're very close to an agreement with Sassuolo, who are back in Syria. I don't know if Buchanan would accept a move there. Clearly, he's ready to move on. He decided to go to the Gold Cup with Canada rather than sitting on the bench at the Club World Cup. So it's clear what's going to happen here. It's just a matter of how much money we can get for him. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mikko, I know you had some thoughts on this one, I feel like.
yeah, I think the Sassuolo rumor is really baffling. I can't. I don't know. It feels like his agent hasn't been informed about these kind of dealings, because it sounds. I can't believe he would accept going to Sassuolo from Inter. But I don't know. It would be extremely positive for Inter to just get rid of him. He isn't that costly in our books, but just to get kind of all the money out of our accounts regarding him, and we would be making a little profit, even with the numbers mentioned in the rumors. 7-8 million has been mentioned, and he's not even that much in our books. So would be nice to kind of seal that one, but I can see that the guy himself wants to kind of look around still for a better deal. But let's hope we can sell him fast.
Apparently, we want to keep a sell-on clause with him, which is hilarious because this guy has zero resale value wherever he goes. All right. Well, let's get into the midfield. So this is going to be the most challenging situation to unpack. We're going to have to spend a lot of time on this one. Part of the problem is no one seems to know what formation we're going to be playing with next season. Does Kivu want to use the double pivot with two attacking midfielders like he did a little bit in the Club World Cup? Are we going to stick with the standard 3-5-2? It's all up in the air, and because we don't know the answer to that question, it's hard to forecast how this is all going to shake out. What we do know is there are three players who are definitely going to be here. Barella, Mkhitaryan, and Zielinski are all not going anywhere for vastly different reasons. Barella, obviously the core of the midfield. Zielinski, his contract is just too bloated for him to go anywhere. And after that, it gets super messy. I was convinced Hakan was leaving this club, but then Galatasaray decided to spend 70 million on Victor Osimhen and won't have enough money to take Çalhanoğlu off of our hands. So if Hakan stays, it sounds like we want Sucic to be his primary backup. Once again, don't know if that's more of a double pivot or as a regista, but regardless, that's how this will shake out. And we know we need proper sub minutes after Hakan missed so many matches last season, but Sucic was one of the two highlights of the Club World Cup, so I feel good having him in the midfield. And when you talk about unknowns on formations, if you want to point towards evidence we're going to be using this like two attacking midfielder, one striker formation, it's Frattesi, right? Because not only does it seem we want to keep Frattesi in the squad, but we actually want to extend his contract, which makes it clear that we want Frattesi to be one of these two attacking players behind the strikers. It might give him a chance to finally break out where he's less involved in the build-up play and has more freedom to just relentlessly attack the opponents. The problem is we don't know who else would be playing this position besides maybe Thuram. So, Jay, what do you think about this kind of reworked midfield, the possibility of Hakan staying, and the rebirth of Frattesi at Inter?
It's hard to say, man. I'm not really a fan of any of it. I am not a fan of Hakan staying, irrespective of this spat between him and Lautaro. I was of the belief myself that it was time for Hakan to move on. Now, I felt he'd kind of reached his peak, maybe not even last season, but the season before then. And now we're stuck with a Hakan who is gradually, I feel, less impactful on the pitch. Just not as good as he was, and it feels like he's getting injured more regularly than he was as well. So all these things are not positives, obviously. So I'm a little bit upset that we seemingly don't have the opportunity to move on from Hakan anymore. And Lord knows that our management, if there isn't a immediate suitor looking to purchase a player, they cannot create those outbound opportunities themselves unless there is a ready buyer, which there doesn't seem to be with Hakan anymore. Or if there is, obviously they're just lowballing the fuck out of us. I also don't think Sucic should be an anchor type player like Hakan was, although Hakan was quite dynamic in Inzaghi's system. I don't really see Sucic as that midfield linchpin. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, I don't think he is that number 6, more of a number 8. Having said that, as far as the formation goes, we might not even need a number 6 if we play like a 3-4-2-1 with two attacking players behind the striker. Then there's naturally no regista in that position, or at least not in the traditional sense that we played with Inzaghi. So who knows? Maybe that will eliminate the need for either Hakan or for anyone to play as like a designated regista in Kivu's system. It is very early and quite hard to tell at this stage, but a lot of unknowns. I am a little bit disappointed there isn't more rumors about midfield turnover. I really think it is I guess along with the forwards, the department in our squad which needs the greatest amount of refreshment. We should be looking to move on from even Zielinski as well. I had high hopes for Zielinski. I've always liked him as a Serie A player. Obviously very technical, great shot, dynamite set piece and long shot specialist, but at Inter he's just been injured the whole fucking time. And I think all of us have a bit of a pet peeve where there's nothing more annoying than backup players who are not available. That's precisely the purpose of them being here. But if they can't fulfill that, then it might be time to look elsewhere as well. Mkhitaryan seems to be a lock to stay, as do, well, obviously Barella as well. So, yeah, I mean, realistically, who's the only midfielder that's left here? Aslani? It's not enough. We need more turnover. We need more new names, I think. But as far as the midfield goes, it doesn't sound like we're getting any. We've got Sucic, obviously, but I would have liked at least one more similar profile, or maybe even just like a rotation player for the midfield. But not getting that is, I think, concerning. Not enough fresh blood coming in to replace the old.
I completely agree with that. And part of the problem is we just have too many bodies in the midfield right now. We need to sell one or two of these guys to open up the possibility of signing someone. And if you're not going to sell Hakan and you're not able to unload Zelensky and you're determined to continue forward with Mkhitaryan, it's like, how do you create room in the squad for another midfielder? And this is kind of the Murata problem, right? He's not going to go out of his way to make wholesale bold changes. He kind of sticks with the status quo. The one man who is the odd man out is Asllani. We want to sell Asllani. We're trying to sell Asllani, and his time at Inter is mercifully coming to a close. I don't want to relitigate the whole Asllani situation, but Irfan, we told you so. Let's get a rational take on Asllani leaving first. So I'll start with Mikko.
Yeah, I think his time is up at Inter. He has shown that he can manage against some opponents. Some opponents he can't manage, and yeah, it's time to go. And I think there hasn't been that many links like within Italy. Only, I believe, Bologna and Fiorentina, but nothing further like numbers or deal structure. And I think the only only kind of a serious link was Real Betis with some really low ball offer, and I believe it was Asllani who said no, he wants to stay in Italy. So that kind of limits our possibilities as well, like where we can send him. But maybe during the summer his mind will be turning if there's like not enough action, or then he just decides to kind of stay at Inter and enjoy his time training with the better players. I don't know, but it would be good to kind of get a final or kind of a resolution for this whole thing and get him out of the squad for good.
Yeah. I'm fine selling him. I'm okay with that. I just look, my position with Asllani has always been that people focus too much on him and they blame too much on him when he's really not the problem most times. With that said, I'm totally happy with the midfield upgrade. The thing that really worries me about this midfield is I don't know why. Maybe Sucic is that player, but I don't know why we refuse to get like some of these more dynamic jack of all trades type midfielders. And if we don't do that, then we also refuse to like get like a specialist sort of midfield. I don't understand I can't make sense of like what we're looking for when we look at midfielders and what we're comfortable keeping. Like, for example, even in the Club World Cup, and I know I've hated on him a lot because of his age and because of his like general decline as the season continues, but Mkhitaryan from a skill level is like leaps and bounds above any other player we have, right? Like it's so obvious when he's playing and he's rested that he just has a skill set that not a lot of other Inter players have. But he's getting so old now. You really just can't rely on him to play twice a week down the stretch. And we saw that last year and we saw that the year before that. It's not fair to ask him to play that role either. It's just not fair. But when it comes to like a backup for him or when it comes to some other sort of midfielder formation or some other midfield like dynamic, we seem completely inept with coming up with some sort of a plan or what we're going to do. The other area I always go back to is like we don't have like a defensive specialist, right? Like we don't, if we're trying to hold a lead late in the game, there's no midfielder that we can bring on that might slightly change the tactics to like, shut the door on the match. Like I don't understand why we don't find somebody who, if you're gonna like not look for midfielders who can just do everything, like why do you also not look for specific midfielders then who do like tasks that you need in a moment? Like if you need a goal, fine, you can maybe put Fratesi in, right? Because Fratesi is the kind of player that will push up into the box and find himself in positions to score goals. Like we can pull that off decently well, but we don't have any answer on the defensive side for that late in games. We don't have anyone we can bring on that can kind of shut the door, break up attacks, retrieve the ball, like that sort of thing. We don't have anyone like that. And it doesn't look like we're linked with anyone like that or that it's even identified as a need. And the other thing we don't have is like a reasonable backup player for Mkhitaryan or like a rotation type player for Mkhitaryan at this point, someone who can move the ball up the pitch with his feet. And we also don't have anyone who can, start to give Barella a little bit of a break and then just play like that box to box role and do that. Maybe Sucic is that, but I don't know. So the midfield to me is just like it's a bunch of random names and players and strategies. Like there doesn't seem to be any cohesive strategy or plan with the midfield. It's just like a collection of pieces, and you're just like sitting there trying to figure out like what the hell are we doing in the midfield? And clearly we need some sort of change in the midfield. I mean, Hakan was very unimpressive last year. Even aside from the injuries, a lot of times in the matches he wasn't good. And Mkhitaryan is obviously one of the better midfielders we have, but again, his effectiveness in a lot of key matches was missing, probably because he was playing so much. And then Barella last year even, I thought had a little bit more of a disappointing season than he usually has. So the midfield worries me immensely. And you can say with Kivu here, you might see some more action and some more chances for players like Fratesi and maybe even like Zielinski. But I don't know. I need to see more, and I need to see some sort of plan crystallize with the midfield because it's just total random chaos to me at this point.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Irfan, and that the midfield pieces don't make a ton of sense collectively. Like we just don't. We have a very poor defensive midfielder on an individual basis, and if you think about how this is going to start working, what I think you're going to see is you have Barella and Hakan as your two starting midfielders, with Zielinski and Sucic as the reserve midfielders, and then you'll have like Fratesi, Zalewski, Mkhitaryan, and like Taram as your like attacking midfielders who play in behind Lautaro. That's how I think we're progressing. And to your point, it's very underwhelming. I mean, it's a collection of players who are not good defensively. We're very limited in the style of football we can play with this combination of midfielders. Like it's once again that slow, gradual build up possession. Like these are not dynamic players. So I like I said going into the segment, midfield's the biggest question mark to me. It's where we need a new body in the midfield, but until we unload Asllani and maybe one more of these guys, I don't think it's going to happen. I did want to point out on the Asllani talk quickly because I know we got away from them. The transfer fee is only going to be, sounds like 8 or 10 million. So it's not going to be a significant amount of money that we can pour into something else. It's just, I doubt selling Asllani will be enough for us to get another midfielder.
Yeah, I think they were like, these are the typical calciomercato rumors or reports that if we sell just Asllani, we are like set and nothing's gonna happen because Sucic was added already beforehand, before anyone left. But one name I want to mention, I mentioned this before, is Genoa and Morten Frendrup, the Danish guy there. He's been linked to Inter, but it was of course mostly about when the Çalhanoğlu rumors were flying around who would be the replacement and blah blah blah. But I would really love to see him added to Inter if we just could get rid of like Zielinski's contract. Obviously, that's most likely not going to happen, but that would be my optimal kind of scenario at this point. Get rid of Zielinski and Aslani and add Friendrup as a really kind of defensive option to our bench. Yeah, I think the Fratesi situation that's a bit of a question mark for me. If we are going to extend him, like maybe Kibu is certain that he can get more out of Fratesi than Inzaghi was able to do. Maybe we start to play like more vertical game, or that was at least maybe the talk, and maybe we saw a little bit of that in the Club World Cup, not that much when we went further in the tournament, but at least in the start we played more direct. Maybe Fratesi would kind of benefit that kind of a change of style in our game. But he's like he's kind of pretty expensive guy in our, like, accounting wise. He costs a lot per season, and extension would lower that number, but still he's pretty expensive. And if we keep him, we need to hope that Kivu finds a way to use him properly, because he's been, like we've discussed many times, he's been a disappointment regarding, like, in relation to the price we paid and how much he costs. But yeah, generally I kind of agree your guys' sentiment. Maybe I'm not that pessimistic about the midfield in general. Of course, it's true that we have the same guys, mostly the same guys here, and they are like 1 year older. Last summer was after our great Scudetto season, and now they are a year older. They didn't perform that well, so it would be nice to kind of see more kind of fresh blood here. And we have one guy. Would be nice to see another guy at least, like you guys discussed already. But let's see. It's a long market still, and I feel that in a sense a lot of things can happen, but then at the same time it might be that there's not much that can be done by Inter. So it's a bit so-so situation in my mind with the midfielders.
It's funny to me how, let's just say January, February, we were talking as a podcast about how Fratesi leaving this summer was a foregone conclusion. And now the reports are that Fratesi is unmovable. Kivu wants to keep him at all costs. So that to me signals the tactical change that's going to take place from Inzaghi's time here. Hopefully it works out. Fratesi's someone we need to get the most out of if we want this to work. Let's wrap this up by talking about the attack. We're finally free of Correa and Arnautovic, gone and gone. Bonnie is here. Pio is staying. So if we're being honest, there's probably no chance Thuram is leaving. There's been no significant rumors of him leaving. Apparently him and Lautaro have kissed and made up. So the attack next season will be Lautaro, Thuram, Pio, and Bonnie. I want to hold off on Taremi conversations for a second. Let's just talk about this group of forwards we have. Jay, what do you think about Bonnie, his exceptionally poor goal scoring record, and just the overall remaking of the attack?
Again, bit of a non-committal answer, but very difficult to say. I think it depends largely on the formation as well. We've discussed the potential of Kivu playing a 3-4-2-1, and sure, that might just be a more on paper than it is on the pitch, but still, it depends or remains to be seen what kind of role or functionality the other forward has here. If it's Thuram or Bonnie kind of dropping into that 2, or maybe even playing as like some kind of AM, or depending on how wide those 2 behind the forward tend to start or tend to roam. So again, very difficult to say, but I think Bonnie is a I'll say he's a step in the right direction in that he's someone who's at least fast somewhat and has a degree of skill with the ball at his feet, but again, a little bit rudimentary for my liking, a little bit unpolished, a little bit lacking in the goal scoring department, as evidenced by his 6 goals in 100 games for Parma. He's played quite a lot of games actually, going back to Serie B as well. So yeah, his goal scoring record is indeed not great, and it remains to be seen how effective he'll be in this system compared to how he was utilized at Parma under different coaches as well as Kivu. Then there's the whole question about the suitability of the existing forwards, Lautaro and Thuram. Lord knows both of them really need to improve from last season. As strong as Thuram started, he faded really badly, and I think he scored 2 Serie A goals in the entirety of 2025, the calendar year. So that goes to show it's not only Lautaro who is going through these massive peaks and troughs in form and goal scoring streaks, it's Thuram as well. And Long maintained that he has a tendency to play things a bit too cute, not cold blooded enough, not direct enough. And the positive of that is you get some really pretty moments like Lautaro's goal against Bayern Munich with Thuram's, that was all facilitated by Thuram's amazing, delicate, back-heeled pass for Lautaro. But then there are times when he kind of goes for something similar when the much better approach is to just take the ball and, fucking shoot. So it's a bit of a mixed bag with him, but either way, I'm hoping for a bit more maturity from him. Likewise, Lautaro. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about Lautaro, but I feel like this is who he is as a player. And I think we're just going to have to sit this one out. Sorry, let me rephrase. I think we're just going to have to deal with the way he is for the remainder of the time that he's here, because we're in a stage where he's our captain, one of our all-time record players, and this kind of puts a level of importance on him, which I'll be brutally honest, I don't think it's really matched by his ability or his output. And yet, because of that, we are not willing to settle for a lower price should anyone come calling. At the same time, buyers are not going to be enthused by the price that we would want for a Lautaro Martinez. And, put the 2 and 2 together, we're going to be stuck with him for a while. So I'm not going to say we're limited to a certain level for the duration that Lautaro is with us, but I think you get what I'm saying in terms of how we attack, how much goals we can get from him as the spearhead of our attack, and I guess what we expect from a consistency standpoint across the duration of a 1 year, 50 to 60 game long season. We have some expectations for these things based on what we've seen from him over the past 6-7 years. So it is what it is. I feel like we should have just kept Carboni. I don't know why we loaned him out. I feel like he could have played potentially. He could have played in that 3-4-2. He could have played maybe even in the midfield or even as a wing back. But I don't really understand the point of loaning out another young, talented player, especially for a fucking dry, unpaid loan, man. At least get a couple of million for that shit. But yeah, what can you do? Oh, and this is the year of Pio Esposito.
That's right. That's the real takeaway here. You're worried about Lautaro. Well, Lautaro should be worried about getting benched for Pio Esposito when he comes and scores 10, 15 league goals this season. I'm all in on Pio.
This is the year of Pio Esposito. To sit on the bench mewing with that jawline while Lautaro squanders chance after chance. And we, and we just want that World War II leather jacket, B-2 bomber, good looks of Pio to save us. But yeah.
It's okay, Jay. Inzaghi can't hurt you anymore. The youth revolution is here. Pio Esposito is going to get 15 Serie A starts this year. It's all good now.
I think with the kind of the new set of forwards we have, we discussed a lot, and there was a lot of discussion before the market started or during the past season that we need that third striker, that kind of he would be at the level of Lautaro and Thuram, or very close to that. Now what we got was Bunny, who was like nowhere near that kind of a status. And then we have this prodigal son in Pio Esposito, which we all all kind of love to see our own boy going straight to the, or not straight, but going to the first team. But still, his status is, it's a bit different thing, and it's hard to kind of decide what to kind of expect from him, like how many league goals or how many goals in general during the season, because he's so young and hasn't played in Serie A at all. At the same time, he looked good in Club World Cup, so it's really it's a tough case. But going back to what I said, that it's a really different dynamic now with the forwards than what at least I expected, that we would add some proper third option. But now we have this kind of a bit strange situation that our bench is still quite underwhelming compared to what we have in starters. But there's the kind of the Pio Esposito kind of the asterisk there, that if he can be like a raise to a next level and be like a complete player, or like a proper substitution player right out of the gate, which I guess everyone is hoping, including the management and the coach. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I'm not feeling like totally confident with our attack, because I think there's risks all over the place. I gotta be honest.
All I'm saying is this is a pro Pio Esposito podcast.
Oh, for sure. Even I'll echo that. Look, I'll say this about the attack. It's nice to just have some changes. I'm very skeptical that Bonnie's going to be very effective, especially considering how much we paid for him, given the lack of resources generally we have to replenish the squad. I would have liked to spend that money on someone who actually scores goals. But again, he has some interesting skill sets, and he's a young, promising player. So that part of it is actually good. I'm okay with Esposito and with Bonnie, to be honest, because at least there's some potential there. Like, you might end up with a pleasant surprise, like a Bissek sort of situation. You might end up with something like that, where you're like, okay, we've really got something here. And Pio Esposito, I think, showed some real potential in the Club World Cup. So, I think I welcome Bonnie and Esposito. I think those are good, positive moves, certainly with risk, but positive moves. But to me, again, Jay kind of talked about this. I cannot help but go back to our starting two strikers, because I'm sorry, guys. Like, I know I've been very skeptical on this and very negative on this, but we can't have Lautaro going on his like 3-month sabbatical where he scores like 0 goals and expect to like survive. Like, we're not a serious club when our star striker doesn't score goals like 2 or 3 months at a time. It's really, it hinders our performance so much, so much. And last year we were lucky that Thuram was able to essentially carry us. Thuram, who himself doesn't have a history of consistent goal scoring, and then we saw what happened with him down the stretch too. Like, he was still contributing, just like Lautaro will sometimes still contribute, but the goals completely dried up. And a lot of times where like you need a goal to make the difference between -2 points or -3 points, like you're just not getting that goal. And unless I see just more consistency from both Lautaro and from Thuram, I think the forward department in general is going to struggle from just this uncertainty of like what's going to happen, when both of these guys just lose their fucking heads, and we're struggling because of it. So I don't know. It's funny, right? Like I kind of feel like the midfield last year. I feel like the defense last year got a lot of hate on some of the goals that we've conceded, even though I felt like in a lot of cases the error wasn't necessarily from our back line. It was from bad play by DeMarco in the wingback position defensively, and then also from the midfield tracking back. Like especially that PSG match, I feel like more than the defense, it was our midfield that was just horrible. And I feel like in some cases the midfield gets hate because the forwards aren't playing well enough or squandering chances left and right. So it's an interesting dynamic. I'm excited for fresh blood. I'm excited for youth. I'm excited for like an injection of energy and pace, because it was just so depressing to rely on Taremi and Arnautovic and Correa, which are just like corpses at this point. So that's a positive. But to me, we're gonna like survive, or we're gonna do well and flourish if we could finally just see some more consistency out of Lautaro and from Thuram. And they're starting off this off season, beefing with each other and all this other sort of shit. So I don't know. I just don't know what to expect. And the wild card again that we've talked about with all these positions is what does this Kivu team look like? We have no idea. We just don't know. Like, how quick will he pull the trigger when someone like Thuram or Lautaro is in a bad run of form? Like, is he bold enough to like really roll the dice and give Bonnie and Pio Esposito some more chances than maybe Inzaghi gave our third, fourth, and fifth strikers? So I think there's just a lot to be seen there, but there's some reason to be hopeful as well.
The one thing I am watching this year is this could be Thuram's last season at Inter. If you think about this, signed into a 5-year contract. This is around the time, like this summer, next summer, where you're going to either need to extend him or sell him. Like you need to renew the guy, or else you're going to risk losing him for free. So I'm keeping an eye on that. We'll see if this stat you were talking about, Irfan, with Lautaro boils over on the pitch. We'll see if he shows up ready to play this season, and if not, I think we're looking at someone we're going to be selling and trying to change up the attack. The other just quick bit of news before we wrap up here. So Seba Esposito, it sounds like he's close to joining Fiorentina, who are interested in him. His contract expires next season, so he needs to be sold. He showed nothing at the Club World Cup that makes me want to keep him. Hypothetically, if we sold Taremi and we wanted to keep Seba as the fifth striker, I wouldn't cry about it, but I don't think we're losing anything based on the performances I saw from him. And also, just as an Inter fan, I'm preconditioned to expect the worst. Like, we never sell our dead weight. So in my mind, there's no way we managed to find a buyer for Taremi. But for what it's worth, like, there are links. Apparently, there's interest from England. There's interest from Turkey. Maybe we're able to unload this guy. And apparently, if we unload him, we'd be less interested in bringing in a traditional striker and more interested in bringing in an attacking midfielder type, one of those, like, two supporting attacking players who's faster, trickier, but not much of a goal scorer. So, Mikko, final thoughts on any potential moves in the attack if we unload Taremi?
Yeah, there's been a lot of wild names going around in the rumors with this kind of a fifth guy, or so-called fifth guy, this attacking midfielder kind of player. There was Nkunku. Now the latest was Openda. I don't know how he is attacking midfielder, but that's the name which popped popped out today. I don't know. It sounds pretty nice kind of thing, because we haven't seen such players at Inter for a while. Maybe the closest one was I don't know, Alexis Sanchez. Maybe we assumably get someone a little younger than Sanchez back then. So yeah, I'm pretty I'm kind of hopeful, or I wouldn't say excited, but kind of hopeful in a sense that Taremi will be gone. I'm pretty positive he will be gone either on loan, or then we just kind of terminate his contract and he moves elsewhere. But who we're gonna add is interesting question. Jay mentioned Carboni. He could have stayed. We decided to rather, or he will go to Genoa on loan to play properly. I'm fine with that, but then it kind of begs the question: who we gonna add, and is it gonna be like a long-term thing or a loan? Because I assume we are kind of projecting that Carboni will come back next summer, 1 year experience, and he will take over at Inter. So what's the plan with this fifth guy? It's going to be interesting, and I don't know. I have a feeling it will take a time, but let's see. Let's hope we can find someone, and I guess first we need to find someone for Taremi.
Lorenzo Insigne is available on a free transfer if we're interested.
No thanks. No thanks.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Jay's hot betting tips. Jay, I want a prediction for the Club World Cup final today between PSG and Chelsea.
Pretty obviously Chelsea 3-1. PSG will do their new rugby union style kickoff where they kick the ball straight into the opposition far corner into touch, and then they'll probably score straight away because the goalkeeper from Chelsea, what's his name, Robert Sanchez, bit of an artard. But then you're going to see the class of the Premier League shining above these shit leagues like Serie A and La Liga, who are dominated by an even shitter league in Ligue 1. And you're going to see Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, just these giants of world football, Nicholas Jackson, you know what I mean? We're talking like the creme de la creme of football right here.
Who the fuck are these names?
They're going to rise to the occasion.
Go on.
Unlike the losers from Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and Inter. And they're going to beat PSG to put English football where it belongs and where it should be, at the pinnacle of world football.
When João Pedro scored a brace for Chelsea last week, did anyone think to themselves, really? He's playing for Chelsea now? Only to realize it's not the Kyrie player.
João Pedro, penalty merchant from Brighton for 60 million or something. So have you seen those memes? 2 billion spent and your attack is like Pedro Neto, João Pedro, and Nicholas Jackson and Liam Delap or something.
My favorite part of the, I guess I'll call him Italian João Pedro, was like when Mancini was having a full-on striker crisis and was just taking like anyone with a pulse. He brought in Kyrie's João Pedro for one game as an Azzurri player to try and make it work. He never played for Italy again after that.
Yeah, I recall.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up there. I'm just gonna assume we're recording next week. I don't know what there will be to talk about. We'll plan something. I know Jay's off on vacation next week, so Jay, hopefully you avoid your trip. Have a good time. Mikko, I'll let you do the honors.
Forza Inter, and see you next week.
All right, catch you all then.